Welcome to the Watch List. I'm Lindsay Melchak. Today we have the pleasure of speaking with Matthias Greiffenberger, an analyst at GBC Investment Research based in Hamburg, Germany. Now, Matthias covers a wide range of industrial companies, and today we want to discuss the recent commodity sanctions from China and their impact on businesses worldwide. So as we know, with rising geopolitical tensions and supply chain disruptions, critical raw materials have become a hot topic. So what does this mean for companies that depend on these resources, especially as the markets react to these developments? So first off, welcome, Matthias. This is definitely a trending topic, and I'm happy to have you here with us to take a bigger look at this.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Okay, so in recent weeks, we have seen various commodities making headlines, and that is leading to significant stock price increases for specialized companies. So let's start there. What's your assessment of the situation, especially for companies that are actually relying on these raw materials?
Yes, I think the commodity markets can be a bit of a double-edged sword. So these companies that have great assets, they are probably right now really excited about the current developments. But if you're a manufacturer relying on these rare earths or metals, then you're struggling. And I mean, that makes sense because when supply gets squeezed, prices go up. And currently, all the mining companies that can profit from this are having a great time. And on the other side, the manufacturers are in crisis mode.
Well, there is one material that has particularly caught the attention of the public, and that is tungsten. So what's your evaluation around this critical raw material?
So when we talk about critical materials, most people think of rare earth or lithium for batteries, but tungsten is probably, or even maybe not even more important than the lithium or rare earth, because it gets used in most military and industrial applications. So um, very critical, but the problem is China controls 80% of it, and that's a real big number. It's basically a monopoly, and they were just about to tighten their grip on the tungsten market. They reduced the exports, and most companies that rely on these on tungsten are now in crisis mode. When you speak to Louis Black, the CEO of Almonty, his phone is constantly ringing. Always people asking for him to supply the industries with tungsten, and his mine is not even in production yet. And I mean, it's getting worse over the time now. China has already banned imports of tungsten scrap, and that makes it even harder for other countries or economies, just like Europe, the US, or Japan, to stay competitive. And looking back at the history, similar things happened to gallium or germanium, and when China restricted exports, the prices just go through the roof. And if you're sitting on those assets, just like Almonty sits on a huge tungsten asset, then prices skyrocket and the valuation of these assets explode.
Now, Matthias, you just mentioned Almonty. So as you know, CEO Louis Black has been a guest on the show with me here multiple times. Now, there's a company that has aligned themselves perfectly with what is currently happening now with China. Their stock has obviously seen its fair share of volatility, but what do you see? What's the potential that you see for Almonty stock?
Well, when China announced those restrictions, the stock of Almonty more than doubled. I think this might be just the beginning, because if you look at it from a global perspective, China and Russia and North Korea control about 90% of the global tungsten supply. And basically, Almonty, with its huge asset in South Korea, is one of the only really big suppliers that could potentially supply the Western Hemisphere with tungsten. So this could be huge for them. Also, they are now changing their jurisdiction of incorporation from Canada to the US. So you could think this is a small detail, but the valuations in the US are huge in comparison to the rest of the world. And if you look at other companies like MP Materials, the valuations just go through the roof. They are now worth more than 4 billion, and that could also happen to Almonty. And what's also interesting is you mentioned Louis Black. He's a great CEO and he really understands tungsten. He leads the global conversation in tungsten. And when we see him at our conference, the IAF, he's a huge crowd magnet, and he's really experienced in not only tungsten, but he also sold a mining asset before. So I think he's positioning Almonty really well globally, but could also make Almonty to be a really interesting takeover target. So basically, coming back to the Almonty stock, does it still have room to run? I think so. I mean, the demand for non-Chinese tungsten is exploding right now. And I mean, there's always a bit of a risk in a mining asset because they still have to execute on their plans, and there's always some geopolitical development going on that could shake things up. But if you're looking for exposure to critical materials market, I think Almonty is definitely a name to watch.
I mean, well, it's clear that the commodity market remains a crucial factor for global industries, and we'll certainly be keeping an eye on these developments. Thank you, Matthias, for sitting with me and for all of your insights.
Thank you so much.
To stay in the know on this topic and for all of your market news, stay right here on stockhouse.com. If you want to hear more about the IIF, International Investment Forum, their website is ii-forum.com. I'm Lindsay Melchick. We will see you next time.